Shabbat Shalom, Anna, and Yasher Koach. I love this Devar Torah. I love what you shared with us this morning, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'm going to take a few moments now to respond to you. I think it's interesting that you were given the Torah portion that is, maybe the most famous of all the Torah portions, in kind of close competition to last week's when we crossed the sea. This week, we're standing on Mount Sinai. We meet God. There's lightning, there's thunder, there's fire, there's smoke, the earth is shaking, there's a sound of a horn getting louder and louder. We are terrified and stand and receive Torah. It is the moment of revelation. And we then read the 10 Commandments, this Torah portion. So many people, when they get this Torah portion, feel like they must focus on that because that's the big show. You chose a passage of Torah from the same Torah portion before the theophany, before the grand moment, a conversation between Moses and his father-in-law, Yitro. And what's interesting is that it is possible that the revelation that you focused on, the revelation between two human beings about how to ask for help, could be the most important revelation for us to hear about and consider and reflect on this particular Shabbat, this particular year as we read Yitro. And I want to think about that a little bit more with you, because I think about, as you described, we're here in a pandemic. We are all more needy than we've really ever been, probably for many of us. And if we can't learn how to ask for help now, when are we going to learn it? Would that we could emerge from this long and difficult experience of isolation, of lockdown, of illness, of grieving, of boredom, of loneliness, having learned to ask for help. Would that we could emerge from the pandemic more aware even of what we need, more comfortable having needs. This concept of being aware of our needs and being comfortable having needs, being comfortable even being seen as needy, has implications at every level, at the personal level, at the interpersonal level, at the communal level, at the societal level, and even at the cosmic level. And I'm going to explain that. The first step in all of this is knowing at any given moment what we need. For many of us, the demands of daily life require us to push through our needs, leading us to habitually ignore them. From there, it can sometimes be hard to figure out what they are. How often when you reach for a snack, are you actually thirsty? Or how often when you scroll through social media, do you really need to go outside? Or how often when you watch TV, do you really need to go to sleep? Or how often when you're cranky, do you really need a hug? It's pretty hard to ask for help if you don't even know what you need. And lately, in this pandemic, I've been practicing asking myself all throughout the day, what do I need right now? To try to get a little more nuanced about understanding what I need. It is revelatory. The next is taking the risk, as you described, Anna, to ask for what you need or want. I recently realized that in this time of loneliness, I wanted to talk to my old friend in San Francisco every day. I wanted a daily check-in. That felt like a huge ask. It felt vulnerable to ask her this, even though she's such a good friend. But she was delighted. And now we speak to each other every day. And I love it, and she loves it. And she was grateful that I was vulnerable and that I told her what I needed. It made her feel closer to me. Sometimes we forget about that part. If you think about it, love is wanting another person to have everything they need, because love is wanting another person to be happy. And no one of us can give any other of us everything that we need or want. But if we don't take the risk to tell each other what we need, we never give each other the opportunity to show love. And when someone does something kind for us, or when someone willingly meets a need that we express, it also can make them feel good. We're all looking for opportunities to love. We want to love each other. So if I'm busy being self-sufficient and having no needs, where does that leave you? This Wednesday, my dog Ellie died. She had cancer. And on top of that, my dad has been in the hospital. So I'm really sad these days. And my kids are really sad. A member of this community asked me last week if her family could get me anything at the grocery store. And another member asked if she could make me soup. And another member asked if she could bring me a care package. Now, not long ago, I would have said, no, thank you, we're fine. And we kind of are fine. The truth is, I had made my own soup and I had already gone grocery shopping. But I said yes anyway, because a gift of soup and a handful of groceries that I forgot to get when I went shopping and a thoughtful Shabbat care package made all the difference for me. It wasn't the food, it was the love. I felt cared for. I felt really grateful. And I felt so much more able to give love to the next person who needed it from me. That's how the world should be, maximizing our opportunity to love each other. Right now, Congress is debating President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID aid package, and it looks like it's going well, but the conversation about it fits into a long history in our country of debating whether people should be given help, right? Should single mothers who are raising children get help with the costs of that? That was a debate many years ago. Should poor families get help putting food on the table or paying rent? Should new home buyers get help with a down payment? Should new parents get time off to care for their babies? Should people without homes be given help to find and keep a home? Should people with mental illness or drug addiction have all the help they need to treat it? Should sick people get help paying for medical care or medicine? In this country, we have such a strong idea that we're supposed to do it all ourselves, that there's something wrong with us if we need help. We lag behind the rest of the world in caring for each other through public policy. We're different from the rest of the world in expecting people to have no needs. The last thing you want to be in America is needy. That environment, that culture has to contribute to our reaction when someone says, hey, can I do anything to help you right now? Do you need anything? No, I'm fine. I'll be okay. I don't need anything. Guess what? Some of the most important voices in Jewish history argue that the essence of Judaism is about neediness, God's neediness. Check it out. Right after the section of Torah that you focused on today, Anna, we have the big dramatic scene at Mount Sinai, and it starts out like this. On the third new moon, after the Israelites had gone forth from the land of Egypt, on that very day they entered the wilderness of Sinai. Israel encamped there in front of the mountain, and Moses went up to God. And Adonai called to him from the mountain, saying, thus shall you declare to the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. Now then, if you will obey me faithfully, or hear me, if you will hear me or listen to me faithfully and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples. God needs humans. In particular, according to Torah, God needs Jews. The entire Exodus story is God putting on a huge fireworks show of plagues and miracles so that the Israelites will see God's power, will pay attention to God, who's invisible, will love God. And now at Mount Sinai, God is begging the people to follow God's ways, to keep God's commandments, to be God's people. You saw what I did to the Egyptians. You saw that I brought you right here to me. On eagle's wings, I brought you here. Can't you see how powerful I am? Can't you see how much I love you? This pleading will continue throughout Torah, throughout the prophets. God wants us. God needs us. God wants our love, our attention, our praise, our commitment, our loyalty, our actions. That's what covenant is. That's what Torah is, and prophets, and Kabbalah. And in modern times, this message is most clearly conveyed in the writings of Abraham Joshua Heschel. Judaism is God's quest for man, Heschel says. The Bible is a record of God's approach to God's people. More statements are found in the Bible about God's love for Israel than about Israel's love for God, Heschel points out. So why does God need us so much? Kabbalah teaches that God's power depends on human action. The Zohar describes God as saying, when Israel is found worthy below by doing mitzvot, my power prevails in the universe, but when Israel is unworthy, I'm weakened above. Heschel calls God's dependence and need and longing pathos, calling it the central idea in prophetic theology, the theme of God in search of man, the summary of Jewish theology, end quote. If God can be needy, well, then surely we can too. We are born needing each other. In a couple of months here at CBE, we're going to be launching a whole new level of chesed activity, meaning that we're going to be reaching out to help each other all throughout our lives. When a baby is born, when a loved one dies, when a family is celebrating, when someone is sick, when someone is alone, when someone needs help, we're going to be creating a microcosm of the world that should be, the world where we maximize opportunities for love, the world where everyone is cared for. In order to do that, each of you are needed. Of course, you're needed to bring each other meals and show up at Shiva Minyans. Of course, that's going to become part of our basic identity at CBE, who we are and what we do. But I don't even mean that. I mean that you're needed to do something more difficult than that. You're needed to ask for help. We need you to do the harder thing, which is to say, yes, I would really love some soup. Yes, I forgot a few things at the store, and if you could pick them up for me, that would be amazing. Yes, you want to bring me a challah and some wine because I had a death this week? I would be so grateful to receive that. I need help getting to the doctor. Can someone drive me? I need help getting a vaccine appointment. Can someone sign me up? I need help with meals this week. I'm lonely, and I would really love it if someone would call me. Would that we could emerge from this pandemic knowing what we need and knowing how to ask for it. Would that we would emerge from this pandemic having practiced a new kind of community that mirrors the world that should be. Would that we'd emerge from this pandemic maximizing opportunities for love, to love God, to love ourselves, to love each other. Let this be our Torah. Let this be our revelation. Shabbat Shalom.